Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making the 2017 version of Pennywise. This is what I consider a no-sew body pattern, which means we're going to start by making the arms, and then we're going to make the legs, and we're going to join the legs, work our way up the body, attach the arms as we go, and then we're going to move on up to the head, and then we will have to sew on the ears. We'll crochet on all the little ruffles, do all the details and face, and then I'll start you off on the hair and leave you to finish that on your own. For this video, I will be using a number 4 medium weight yarn, a 4.25 millimeter hook, and 14 millimeter safety eyes. And if you can find some little pom-poms, I just found these in the Christmas section a couple of years ago at the dollar store. If you can't find any, I had a hard time finding any red or orange now. I'll show you how to try and make the tiniest little pom-pom that I've ever made, and it's still too big. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you, and I am also providing a drop down at the top of the screen with the pattern instructions for the first 30 seconds of every row for you to follow along with. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. And now you can grab your yarn and let's get started. Okay, we're going to begin by making the arms, and you can start your round any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with a loop on the end like I'm making a chain. So what I do is I fold my yarn over in half. I'm going to grab up at the top where I want my little loop to be. I'm going to wrap it around my finger, down, around and through to make my knot. Then I'm going to grab that little loop and I'm going to slide this knot up towards that loop so it's just a little bit bigger than my hook. Then you're going to insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up and chain 1. And remember that that does not count as a stitch. That's just attaching our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 6 single crochets into that loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to pull on that tail to close that hole if you need to. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we're going to do 6 increases. So that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Increase 3 and 4, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, and our last increase 11 and 12. Row 3, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 4, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 5, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 8. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 decrease for 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, still 7, decrease for 8. I just got to tuck those strings in because I'm catching them. Row 6, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then on our last one, we are going to go in, grab our yarn, pull up, leave those 2 loops on the hook because we're going to change color now. So whatever your arm color is going to be, so I'm assuming gray, and then we're going to cut that so we can tie our new color on. So grab your new color, and we're going to tie those 2 colors together nice and tight, as close to the hook as you can get them, 2 or 3 times. And again, I'm going to tuck those ends in so they're not in my way. Then you're going to grab your new color, pull that through your last stitch of your previous row. All right, our next row, we are going to be going in the back loop. So just before we do that, if you've never done that before, so when you normally go through, you go under the stitch, under both sides of the V in your stitch. When we're doing the back loop, you're going to come down in between the V's and just catch that back loop, catch the next back loop, and so on. And you're going to leave all these front loops, and this is very important because we're going to use these front loops later on to add the ruffles. Okay, so for row 7, in the back loops, we are going to be doing 8 single crochets all the way around. So make sure you're getting in that first stitch in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll just show you really quick. It might be hard to see, but if you can see, we got all those front loops now that we can go in when we get to our ruffle. Row 8, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 9, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 10, again, we're going to go in the back loop. So remember, you're going down in between the V's and just catching the back side of that V. 8 single crochets in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can probably see that a little better now, the little back loops. Row 11, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 12, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 13, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 14, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 15, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, so that we have our color change in the very back, I'm going to do 3 more single crochets. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to stuff our arm. So take your hook out and your stitch marker and grab your stuffing. And what we want to do is we want to have the hand kind of round and fairly firm, and then we'll have the arm not quite as firm. Just a little bit of stuffing. So I'll get that all the way down into the hand. I'll try my scissors. It doesn't work great for this stuffing like it does for the other. I need a little bit more in there yet. And then once you're happy with how much stuffing you have in the hand, you're going to slowly put a little bit up the arm. So you want it to be just enough that it holds its shape, but you don't want it to stick straight out when you attach it. So see, that's pretty squishy there. I can almost get it flat, and then this is quite firm. And then we're going to put our hook back in. And now we're going to close it up. So you're going to start by going in the very next stitch on the front side. And then you're going to go in the very last stitch on the back side. And we're going to do 3 single crochets across. 1. Make sure you're going through both sides. 2. And 3. And then you're going to tie that off. Leave yourself a little bit longer tail. Even though we are not sewing these on, I do something with these ends to help secure the arms a little bit onto the body. Now, usually I would send you back to do the second arm, but I'm going to do this a little bit differently this time because all the ruffles are exactly the same and they do take quite a while. So we're going to do one arm, one leg, and then I'm going to send you back to do your second arm and leg. And then once you have all 4 done, I'll show you how to do the ruffle, this little piece, and then the embroidery part. And then I will let you decide if you want to stop and do all your ruffles on all your parts, or if you just want to keep on going with me and add your ruffles closer to the end. Okay, now we're going to start at the bottom of the leg, so grab whatever color you're using. And again, you can start your rounds any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end, like I was going to make a chain. I insert my hook, grab the yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 6 single crochets into that loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull that tail close if you need to. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we're going to do 6 increases, so that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Increase again, 3 and 4. Increase, 5 and 6. Increase, 7 and 8. Increase, 9 and 10. Increase, 11, and 12. Row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 increase for 2 and 3. And then you'll repeat that around. 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, and our last increase, 17 and 18. Row 4, we're going to be going in the back loop. So remember, you're going to be going down between those V's. And we are going to do 18 single crochets all the way around in the back loops. So down through the V in that back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And that just will keep your foot kind of flat on the bottom. Row 5, we are going to do 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Row 6, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 12. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 decrease for 2, and repeat that around. 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, decrease for 8, 9, decrease for 10, 11, and our last decrease for 12, but we're not going to finish that off, so we're going to go in and start our decrease, leave those 3 loops on the hook because we're going to change color now. So we want our leg color. I'm going to cut that black off. And now we're just going to tie our new color to our old color, nice and tight, as close to the hook as you can get it, 2 or 3 times. And then you're going to pull those for that new string through those loops that are left on your hook to finish off that last decrease of your previous row. In row 7, we're going to be going in the back loops again. And we're going to be putting our ruffle in those front loops, so it's very important that you're in the back loops. Make sure you're in the right stitch. You're going to go down in between the V and just grab that back loop. And we are going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 8, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 9, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 10, we're going to go in the back loops again. So 12 single crochets in the back loops all the way around. So remember, down in between the V, catch that back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 11, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 12, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 13, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, that's the end of the legs. And you're going to do 2 different things for each leg. So if you're only on your very first leg, you're going to slip stitch into this next stitch, and then you're going to tie off. So it's going to look like this. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail so you can sew the hole that you're going to have when you join the 2 legs together. And then if you are on your second leg, you're just going to leave it like this. Do not cut this string on your second leg, because we're going to just keep on going with this piece of thread. Okay, so if you have just finished your first arm and leg, I will be putting a screenshot over in the next frame with a timestamp, so you can go back and do your second arm and leg. And if you have all 4 done right now, just keep on watching and we will continue on to do the little ruffle around one of the arms. Okay, so I'm going to use the arm to show you how we're going to do the ruffles. So we'll be doing the beige ruffle first, and then we'll do the gray ruffle next, and then we'll do the little red embroidering all the way around after that. And the only difference between the 3 is we'll be going into 8 front loops on the arm, 12 front loops on the leg, and then, if I remember correctly, 30 front loops around the waist. So we're going to be attaching the yarn, and you can do that any way you like. I like to always do my knot with the loop on the end, but no matter which way you do, leave a little bit of a tail, because we're going to need that to hide the ends in. So I'll be doing my knot with the loop on the end. And I'm going to go this way so we can see the front of our stitches. So we want our hand to be up on top and our arm to be on the bottom when we insert. And we want to be in the back of the arm. So where our string is coming out, where we finished off, that's going to be the front. So we want to make sure we're on this side in the back. So I'm just going to flatten it out a bit. And then you'll see that's also where our color changes. So I'm going to go in the first front loop. And if you have a hard time finding them, just look where your stitch was and they'll be just ahead of that. So your stitch, your front loop, your stitch, your front loop. And we're going to put our yarn on our hook, pull that through the front loop, and chain 1. And remember, this isn't going to count as a stitch. This is just to attach our yarn. And we are going to do 4 single crochets in every front loop all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to move over into the next front loop. And notice how I'm bending it so I can kind of see the top of that front loop. 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the next front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the next front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the next front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. into the next front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, into the next front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then make sure when you get to the end that they're actually your last front loop. You don't want to miss one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to slip stitch into your first, or like just behind in that first V to finish that off. And you're going to tie that off, and again leave some tail, because you're going to have to put these ends in. I'm going to grab my needle. I'm going to take my top one that's on the outside that we just finished off. Thread that on. I don't know what the best way ever is to do this, but I like to go in the same stitch that my knot is. So in between the V's, catch some of the stitching down the back side, and then kind of come out where my starting knot is when I made my loop. Give it a pull to pull the knot through, but then fix it so it's not smushed down. And then we're going to lightly tie those together, because you don't want to smush down your ruffle. So loose at first, and then slowly a little bit tighter. So as soon as the knot stops slipping when you pull it nice and tight, then you have enough ties. Thread those ends back on. And go as close to that knot as you can into a hole. So I'm going to go right into this one. And then I'm coming out just the center. You can come out anywhere you want, but I just chose to do the center for all of them. Then they're out of my way when I'm doing the rest of my ends. Actually, I guess I could cut it now. I didn't cut any of them until the end before, but that will make it easier. And don't worry about how this is like rippling right now. It will drive you insane as you're going along making this guy, trying to fix it every time. So at the very end, you can fix it and make it kind of wavy. All right, when I decided to do it this way, I totally forgot that we still have our gray attached to our leg. So you're probably going to have to work on the other end of your yarn unless you have another ball of the same color. And again, we're going to attach our yarn, so leave yourself a bit of a tail. You can attach it however you prefer. I'll be doing my knot with the loop on the end. And again, you want to make sure you're in the back, so wherever your string is, that's going to be your front. So this is going to be the back. So just turn that so it's facing you. And then you're going to find your first front loop. So mine is right here. So I should have left my stitch marker in, then you could have seen it better. Attach your yarn. So I'm going to pull that through, and then we're going to be doing double crochets. So we got to do a chain 2 here. 1, 2. And remember, that's not going to count as a stitch. So we're going to do 2 double crochets in every front loop all the way around. And if you need to learn how to do a double crochet, all you do is you wrap your yarn over. You're going to go in that same stitch we were just in. grab your yarn, pull up, grab your yarn, go through the first 2 loops on your hook, grab your yarn, and go through the last 2 loops on your hook. So I'll do that one more time slow because we're going to do 2 into this same stitch. Yarn over, into that same front loop, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn, go through the first 2 loops, grab your yarn, go through the last 2 loops. Alright, so now just 2 double crochets all the way around in the front loops. So 1 and 2. Oops, sorry, I hope you can see this okay. Another double crochet in the next 2 in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Up. Double crochet in the next front loop. 1 and 2. Double crochets in the next front loop. 1 and 2. Double crochets in the next front loop. 1 and 2. Double crochets in the next front loop. Oops, that didn't catch. 1 and 2. Double crochet in the next front loops. 1 and 2. And then, do I have one more? No, that's it. So I am going to slip stitch in the next, so my first double crochet right there, I'm just going to go behind it into that top of that chain there, or just be in front of it. And then I'm just going to slip stitch and tie that off. And again, leave yourself a bit of a tail, so we can tie that end in. We're going to thread our top one on that we just tied off. And now I had a problem with this like moving and not staying where I wanted to keep it. So I'm going to tack this down on the front and the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come straight underneath, right into where the white and the gray meet. And I'm going to go straight across into the other side, right where the white and gray meet. So I'll just show you what it looks like from the side. So I'm just going like that. I'm going to pull this down. I don't want it tight. I just want it to stay there. So I don't want to pull it like that. You want to keep it kind of on the looser side. And then on this side, you're going to go straight up and you're just going to catch this little bar that's underneath the V of your stitch. So if you look at it this way, there's the V of your stitch and you're just in this little bar. We're going to come up and then we're going to come back down and back through the back where we started. And when we do that, we're going to gently pull this one down too. Now you could do all 4 sides if you want, but I found 2 was enough. And that just helps keep it pointed down instead of floofing all over the place. And then you're going to tie your 2 ends together. Not too tight, just enough to keep them in place. And then we'll put them out somewhere. And because it's a dark thread, I'm going to stick to the dark side of my arm instead of coming out where the white is. So I'm going to come down just right again where the gray and the white meet, and then just come up somewhere up your arm. And don't pull this too tight either, because you don't want that stitch to pull your, can't get it. You don't want it to pull this gray ruffle in too much. And we'll give this a cut. It's going to look like this now. And now we're going to do the little red back stitching. And if you're not sure how much to do, what I do is I kind of wrap it around. I leave a little bit of an extra. I'll wrap it around twice for my back stitch, a third time just to be sure, and then a little extra. So I don't know, I probably have 1.5 feet or 2 feet for the arm, but you will need more for the leg and the waist. So let's put that on our needle. And again, I'm going to start in the back. So our string will be where the front of our arm will be. So this is the back here. So down straight. And I'm going to start, so all our stitches are going to be going right here where our double crochets were in the front loops. So I'm going to start up a row or two because that's where I'm going to tie my knot. So I'm just going to come into one stitch. Remember, you want to be even with the back of your arm. Leave a little bit of thread for tying, and then you're going to go backwards into the next hole. And if you have a hard time figuring that out, you'll see where your 2 little double crochets are, and that's the hole you'll be going in. So it looks like I should go there, but I actually go right here. And then I'm going to go past my string into the next hole. Then I'm going to go backwards into the stitch I just made, past my string into the next hole. And you're just going to do that all the way around. Don't pull these too tight because they're kind of nicer. You can see them a little better if they're looser. So into that where I just had my stitch, pass my yarn into the next hole. Backwards and forwards. I was originally just going to wrap the string right around and maybe tack it in one spot, but then I thought, oh, it's going to move around, so I decided to do it this way. And I'm actually quite happy with how it ended turning out. All right, so we're on our last one because we just met up with the last side. So you're going to go backwards, and then to finish this off, and then you're going to come out where you started up here to tie it. There, and that's all you got to do. So I'm just going to tie that. Thread those ends back on. And then hide them out somewhere. I think I'm going to go up again with these. This one. Make sure if you're going up or whichever way that you grab a lot of stuffing, and then you won't really see that red thread underneath your stitches. Oh, we kind of do there though, don't you? You just might have to fix that a little bit. Usually I go across, but I thought I'd keep it in the back. And then just swipe that away if you can see where you cut. All right, so now if you want to go back and do all of the ruffles on all your arms and legs, I'm going to put a little timestamp right here so you can go back easily. And if you want to do it later on, I'll put a timestamp when I change colors at the neck, and then I'll put a timestamp again up here when I close the head. And one last thing before you head back to do the ruffles, it's a lot easier to do the leg ruffles with your leg unstuffed, but before you do the back stitch embroidering, you're going to want to have it stuffed fairly firmly. All right, we are going to join the legs together now, and I did take some of my stuffing out so it's a little easier if you want to do that. We're going to put our hook into our second leg, so that's the one we still have the yarn attached to. We're going to grab our first leg, and we're going to put our hook in the same stitch that we did our last slip stitch in. And then we are going to do 12 single crochets around our first leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now don't worry if it looks like you have more stitches here to do or not. And then you are going to go into your second leg. So this is our last stitch in our second leg. So we're just going to go over into the next stitch, and we're going to do 12 single crochets around the second leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to look like this now. Row 15, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. So make sure you're starting in that first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 16, we are going to start off by doing 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And then we are going to do 3 increases. So 1 increase, 2 increases, 3 increases. And then we're going to do 8 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to do 3 increases on this side. 1 increase, 2 increases, 3 increases. And then we're going to do 5 single crochets across to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Row 17, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 18, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 19, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. All right, before we go any further, let's sew in our tail and close up this hole that we have between the legs. So I'm going to put my string on the inside. And then I'm just going to fold this down a little bit so I can access that string and where my hole is nice and easily. Thread your first leg tail onto your needle. And all you're going to do is weave in and out around these stitches. So I'm going to come from the top to the bottom. And then just go around, top to the bottom again. And I'm not picking any specific stitches, just kind of going around to close up that hole. And then if you think you've got it, just use your finger and push up against there. And if there's no hole left, then that's good enough. If you want to go back the other way, you can. And I'm just going to pick a stitch right close to where I was. And I'm just going to tie a knot there. Now you can tuck this end in if you want, but I like to cut mine. And then let's get our hook back in. For row 20, we're going to be going in the back loops. So remember, you're going to be going down in between the V's and just catching that back loop. So for row 20, in the back loops, we're going to do 30 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 21, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 22, 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 23, 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 24, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, I got a weird knot showing up there, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. Row 25, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 26, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 27, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 28, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. So 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, 4, 5, and a decrease for 6, 7, 8, and a decrease for 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18. All right, our next row we're going to do our arms, so you're going to want to get those ready. And I'm going to switch my camera angle so you can hopefully see a little bit better. And then I will meet you right back. Okay, so for row 29, we are going to start off with 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're going to grab your arm and remember all that talk about the strings facing forward. Remember that this is the back of your guy, this is the front, so you want these strings to be facing the front side when you put them on. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the body. So into the first stitch of the arm, and then into the next stitch of the body. So that's 1, into the next stitch of the arm, into the next stitch of the body, that's 2, into the next stitch of the arm, into the next stitch of the body, that's 3. And then you're going to do 6 single crochets across, and make sure you're in the next stitch because it's very easy to go in the same one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And grab your other arm, and again, this is the back, this is the front. You want to make sure the strings are facing towards the front. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and the body. So into the arm, into the next stitch of the body, that's 1, into the arm, into the next stitch of the body, that's 2, into the arm, into the next stitch of the body, that's 3, and then you should have 1 single crochet left to finish off the row. Row 30, we are going to be going in the back loops again. So remember, you're going to be going down into the V, catching that back loop only, and leaving all those front loops for the ruffle. So row 30, in the back loops, 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then we're also changing color on this last stitch, so we're going to go in, grab our yarn, pull up, and then you're going to grab your face color. I'm going to cut that off now. So now we're just going to tie our new color to our old color, nice and tight, as close to the hook as you can get it, 2 or 3 times. And then we're just going to pull that new color through those last 2 loops to finish off that last row. Now don't forget, I'm not stuffing, so if you need to stuff as you go, you'll want to be doing that. I think we'll also do all the ruffles now. I'll just see. Okay, so grab your ruffle color. And you're going to want to leave a little bit of a tail. We're going to be attaching our yarn. You can do it any way you prefer. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end. And it's going to be a bit of a mess to start, but then it won't be so bad once we get going. I'm just going to hide some of these ends in out of my way here. And to find your first loop, it'll be in your very last stitch that you just made. So right here. And then we're going to be going around and we're going to end right here on the front loops. So let's attach our yarn to our hook. You're going to chain 2 because we're going to be doing double crochets. 1, 2, and then we're going to do 6 double crochets into every front loop all the way around. And this does not count as a stitch, that's just attaching our yarn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoops, and 6. Then you're going to go into the next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, this is feeling like a workout. Into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into your next front loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into your next front loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into your next front loop, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I think this is my last one. Yes, 6 double crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to slip stitch just behind your very first double crochet. So there's your double crochet right there. So you're just going to go up in that V behind it and slip stitch. Again, leave yourself some tail for tying that to the inside. We're going to thread on our top string that we just tied off. I'm going to go in that last V of the last stitch I just made. I'm going to come down the underside here of my double crochets just till I get to that knot. So I'm just in that starting knot. Oops, I'm in a piece of thread there. Pull that through. Now you want to tie it loosely so you don't smush down this little piece of the ruffle. So if it doesn't slide, that's good enough. I'm just going to put them on the inside. So right down that same hole where my knot was made, where I started and attached my yarn, and then just inside somewhere. Just make sure you pull it hard enough to get that knot in. Okay, I'm gonna again put the instructions for the ruffles there up at the top if you haven't done yours. And if you want to go back and do your gray ruffle around the waist and these front loops, remember you want to have it upside down so you see the fronts of your stitches as you're going around. And then if you want to do the two red lines as well, I'm going to come back with all mine done. Your first red line, say you have your ruffle right here where my thumb is, your first red line is going to go right on top above where all your stitches went in when you were doing your ruffle, and then you're going to skip up 2 rows. So 1, 2, and then your next red line of back stitches will be here. So it'll be 2 stitches apart. And when I come back, I'll show you mine when it's done, just in case you want to double check before you get started. Alright, so if you're going back to finish all the rest of the ruffles, this is what it's going to look like. So first I did the little waist ruffle all the way around, and then I stuffed him up to his waist, and then I did the little embroidery all the way around. So right in that stitch where you did all your double crochets, and then 2 rows up, you'll do the next line. And then if you're not doing them yet, I will still be putting a timestamp up there when I finish the head, so you can go back and do it. All right, we're going to start on the head now. So for row 31, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. So 1, 2, and an increase for 3 and 4, and then repeat that around. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. I know it's a little tricky going around this ruffle. It'll get a little easy as we get going here. Row 32, we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 4 and 5, and repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, and an increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, and an increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, and an increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, and an increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and an increase, 29 and 30. Row 33, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 36. So 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and an increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and an increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and an increase, 23 and 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and an increase, 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and an increase, 35 and 36. Row 34, we are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase, 6 and 7. And repeat that around. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and an increase, 13 and 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and an increase, 20 and 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and an increase, 27 and 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and an increase, 34 and 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and an increase, 41 and 42. Row 35, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 36, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 37, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 38, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 39, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 40, we're going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, oopsie, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 41, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 42, we are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease for 6. And repeat that around. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and a decrease for 36. Row 43, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and a decrease for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30. All right, we're gonna add the eyes now and maybe a little bit more stuffing to the body because we only got a few more rows left. So grab those and get those ready. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to flatten out our little guy using our arms and legs to make his center. And technically the eyes go between rows 39 and 40, but we're just going to count 4 rows down from where we're at right now. So first you're going to find your row. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So between rows 4 and 5, we're going to stick our needle in. Then you're just going to kind of decide where your center is. Oh, I think I'm gonna go over a stitch or 2, and I'm gonna go into a stitch so I have a hole on each side. And then I'm gonna take my eye and I'm gonna line up in that hole right beside our needle, and we're gonna count over 4, including this stitch, 1 or hole, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna go in that 4th hole. Same thing on the other side. So we want the hole right beside our needle and 4 over. 1, 2, 3, and in that 4th hole. So it's going to look like that. Just kind of double check before you commit to putting the backs on that you feel like that's the center. And if you're happy with that, put the backs on. And then I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing too. So I'm stuffed to about here. I'm not going to do much of the head because I can't fit it in my camera view really good. So I'll wait till the last row or two before I add the full amount. You want to make sure you get that body nice and firm. Especially if you notice I made him little hips. You want to kind of get those hips out. Unfortunately, his little skirt kind of covers them, but we want him to be kind of chunky looking here in the body. And you're just going to stuff right to the neck. You're not going to stuff in the actual neck. I'll show you in a half second here once I get all these little pieces down. So that's pretty firm right there already. So what you're going to do is you're going to have it stuffed right to the neck opening. And then when you do the stuffing for the head, you're just going to butt that to that. And that, not so much on this one because of ruffle, but in other ones, when you're doing this, if you butt the rest of the stuffing up, it won't stretch your neck as much. Okay, let's get our hook in. And don't forget, you can add your stuffing as you go. I'm going to wait a little bit longer here. And for row 44, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 45, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. So 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, whoops, and a decrease for 24. Sorry. Ooh, it's getting late, I think. Row 46, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, we only have 3 rows left, so if you haven't added any stuffing yet, we better get that in there now. We're just going to fill this right up. We want it to be nice and firm, and maybe even kind of push it out a bit to the side. So you want it firm, but not stretching your stitches, because we are going to do a lot of pulling as it is when we shape the face. So I think I'm going to stop right there, and then I'll add the rest in the last row or so. All right, so let's get our hook back in there. And I'm going to apologize now if you have a hard time seeing what I'm doing, because it's going to be tricky. Okay, so for row 47, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, and repeat that around. 4, 5, and a decrease for 6, 7, 8, and a decrease for 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18. Row 48, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 12. 1 and a decrease for 2, 3 and a decrease for 4, 5 and a decrease for 6, 7 and a decrease for 8, 9 and a decrease for 10, 11 and a decrease for 12. Okay, add whatever stuffing you can now. We've just got one row left. So you want to kind of dig in there, fill all the pockets you can feel. Oh, okay, this guy is causing me trouble. I think I'm just stretching it out now. All right, I should have enough in there, I hope. Okay, let's get our hook back in. And for row 49, we are just going to do 6 decreases. And try not to catch the stuffing if you can. 1, 2 decreases. 3 decreases. 4 decreases. 5 decreases. 6 decreases. And then we're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch and tie off. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail for closing up our center. And then if you need to add just a little bit more, I might just add a touch more. Just to fill up the little bit for the last row that I did. Come on, there we go. Okay. All right, let's close his head up now. So I'm actually, maybe I'll take his stitch marker out too. So I take it out here if you're using yarn because it goes up the one leg funny. So I take it out of there first and then I pull it up through the head. Hopefully it comes out for me. Yep. So now let's thread on our end. And what we're going to do is just go in and out of those last stitches in the top loop. I always like to come in from the inside so that my knot kind of goes into the inside when I pull it. And I didn't do the nicest job here, but it's not going to matter because we're going to put our hair on there anyways. Oh, and another thing that I've just decided lately is if you pull this not quite so closed, so usually you want to pull that nice and tight. I also might mark it so I know where the center is. So if you pull that really tight, it's hard to get your hair all in there when you start doing your hair. So I've started not pulling it quite as tight so I can get, like say I'm putting 6 strands of hair in that one hole. And then we're just going to tie a knot in the next stitch. And of course that's only if you're adding hair. And then let's put that down and out somewhere. We'll give that a cut. And then we're gonna tuck in the arms here. So what you're gonna do is thread on one of your arms. It doesn't matter which one because we do exactly the same thing for both arms. And you're gonna find where your last stitch was and kind of the knot where you tied off your arm. And you're just going to go into that last hole where you did your last single crochet when you tied it on. And then you're going to come out the center back, just under the neck there. Then do the same thing for the other side. Thread your ends on. Find where your knot and your last stitch was when you attached your arm. So right here. And then you can come out that same hole that your other string came out. And make sure you're not catching any other stitches because it's really tight and hard to see there. Then we're going to give it one tie. Keep track of your ends. What I do is I just like to wrap them right around the neck right away. We're going to turn them over. And now we're going to pull these strings and these arms are going to come in and forward. And it's going to pull that knot where it's loose there inside. So just give them a nice pull. Be careful not to break your string. And wherever you're happy, that's where you'll stop, and then you'll come back and tie it once or twice just to secure them there nice and tight. Then we'll thread those ends back in. And hide them inside the body. You want to make sure you go back in that same hole and then just out somewhere. Oh, there we go. And we'll give them a cut. All right, now we're going to work on the face, and I'm going to pin everything first so we can all kind of do everything together. So we're going to start by finding our row where we put our eyes in, and we're going to go down one stitch into a hole in the center. So that's going to be our nose. Then we're going to go down 2 rows, 1, 2, and we're going to put a pin in the center, and that's going to be the center of our lips. And then we're going to go over 2 holes this way for the sides of our lips. So 1, 2. Same thing on the other side. 1, 2. And then we are going to go 3 holes over to do the little lines that come up here. So we're going to go 1, 2, and in that third hole, same thing on the other side, 1, 2, and in that third hole. And then we're going to do the bottom of the lip here, so find our center one. And we're just going to go down one, is it one row? Yeah, one row. So I'm just going to have to go in there. It's going to be a little bit off-centered. And then we're going to do the little lines for the eyes. So they're going to start right underneath the eye. Come up on the other side of the eye. And then we're going to go up 4 rows. So at the top of the eye, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and in that top of that 4th row. And then let's do that on the other side, under the eye in the center, on top of the eye in the center if you can, and then 4 rows up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to leave this like this for a second. So if you want to pause your video and match this up, if I went a little too fast for you. Okay, now we're going to just grab a little bit of red. We're going to do the nose first, and we're going to do that by itself. So you don't need too much. We'll thread that on. And we're just going to go on either side of the pin we put in for our nose. So I'm going to start over here somewhere where I'm going to tie it. Then I'm going to come up right beside that pin. Leave a little bit for tying, and then we're going to go over to the other side to do the other side of our nose. And we're just going to wrap our yarn around about 4 or 5 times, depending on how thick your yarn is and how much you want your nose to kind of poke up. So that's twice. 3 times. This will be 4 times. Definitely go another. So this will be 5 times, and then I'm going to come out where I started. Make sure you're right in that hole. And then we'll give that a little bit of a tie. Thread that back on. We'll put this back in to hide it out somewhere. I'm going down and grabbing some stuffing so we don't see a red line going across. Kind of be a little on the gentle side as you're pulling it out. As soon as you got that knot in, you're going to gently take the rest of your yarn through. And I do have a bit of a red line where I started, so I'm just going to push that around a bit. And then if your nose isn't quite even, you can just go underneath and just kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle and pull up, and that will kind of even it out a little bit. So let's give this a cut now. And then I'm just going to swipe my needle across there to get rid of that red. All right, now grab your next chunk of red, and what I'm doing for length is I'm just taking my yarn, stretching my arms all the way out from one side to the other, and then that's how much I'm going to use. And that should be more than enough. Whoops. All right, let's thread that end on. And I'm going to go in one side where the corner of my mouth is, so center, corner on each side. And I'm going to pull my yarn about halfway through so they're even amount on each side. And it doesn't have to be exact, but if you want it to be exact, you can just line your ends up, pull it till that side's tight. We're going to do one side and then we're going to do the next side. So I'm going to start on this side, so let's thread that on. And now I'm going to come to the middle pin. So skip that stitch and then into the middle, and we're going to go back where we just came through. And we're going to go around twice. So once for the first part of the lip, and then twice to fill that lip out a little bit, and come right back through that same stitch. And now we're going to come down into this stitch on the bottom of the lip. Actually, I think I went this way, so it crisscrossed and didn't leave a space there. And now we're going to come over to this pin. So this is the line that we're going to be making. So we've got half a mouth. We're going to ignore this string for a minute, but we are going to use that stitch to go backwards to make this line. And then we're going to come out that same stitch. And then we're going to go up. Oh, I lost that pin somewhere. Where we pin that pin at the bottom of the eye. And I couldn't really get around good without, well, let's try. Actually, it looks like it's going to work good this time. So I'm just going under the eye into that next pin. Oh, my arms. I should have elastic them down. And then we're going to go up to that top pin. And then somewhere in the middle, we're going to tie it. So you're going to go down, grab a bunch of your yarn, and come out. So it's going to look like this. And so this is where I said I didn't like what I did with my face. But what I did was I actually just kind of loosened these a bit. So they look like they're a bit curved, and it looks a lot better. Okay, let's get our other end on now. And we're going to do the exact same thing, but going the other way. So now we're going to go into the center of the lip. Out this stitch right here, the edge of our lip. So that's one. Go in there again. And I want to try and make them so they stack on top of each other a little bit. And now we're going to go down into the bottom of the lip. And this time we're going to come over to this corner. We're going to go backwards to the corner of the lips and come back out there. And then we're going to go in the center under the eye where you have your pin. And let's see if I can get up there on this side. Oh, I can. I don't know why I couldn't the first time. Whoop. And then up into our top one. Go down, grab some stuffing, and then come up where you ended on the other side. All right, now we're just going to give that a tie, kind of lightly, so we're not pulling all this too much, and then tighten a little bit as you go. That's good enough. Thread those ends back on. And then again, like you did the nose, go back in and out, but kind of watch what's happening in the front. So once that knot is through, you can stop pulling. So right there, gently take the ends out. Give them a cut. I'll swoop that little piece of red away. And then again, you're going to have to just kind of loosen these up a bit. Just so they seem kind of curved a bit. Whoop, this one really wants to stay up. Look at this one, just does not want to listen to me. There we go. Anyway, that's how I prefer it. All right, and then I'll just show you how I tried to do little teeth in there. So I just separated some of my yarn. If you have embroidery thread, use that. It will look a lot nicer. So I'm just separating that thread apart. I'll thread that on. My goal here is just to make 2 little V's. So again, I'm going to start kind of out of the way over here. Come up through the center of the mouth at the top. Pull most of my thread through, leave a little bit for tying. Then I'm just going to go over this way for 1 tooth. Come up underneath of that lip. And don't pull this too hard. And then we're going to go back down and back up to the top of the center of the lip to do our second one. So there's our 1 tooth, and then same thing, down kind of at an angle. Make sure you're under the lips when you're doing this. Come over a stitch, whoops, one into the eye. And then come back down, and we're going to come out where we started. So there's your 2 teeth. And if yours don't kind of stand out too good, you can come under and just lift up the white between, and that will help move those black lines over if you need them to be moved a bit. All right, let's tie that up now. Thread those ends back on. And then we'll gently hide them out somewhere, catching a lot of stuffing so we don't see that black, and gently pull this one. I need an extra hand here. There we go. You may have to smush that down a bit. This one could be a little higher. Then we'll give those a cut. Swoop that little end away. Okay, grab yourself a little bit of scrap white now. Thread that on your needle, and we're going to do the shaping. Before we get going, I'm just going to show you where to pin it on the bottom so you know what stitches to go in and out. So first you want to find a center hole. So that's where we're going to be tying our yarn. We're going to be coming over this stitch, and then we're going to be going under this stitch. And so this is where our yarn is going to come out when we go down. So we got center, hole, pin. Do the same thing on the other side. Center, hole, pin. And it'll make more sense as we get going along here. All right, so now we're going to put our yarn on either side of our eyes, and we want to be on the inside of where we put our red string because we don't want to pull it over. So just under the eye in that hole, and then on the other side in the same spot. And you want about half your yarn on each side. We're going to do one side and then the other again. So whatever end you have your needle on, we're going to go over one stitch in, and we're going to come down to this center outside pin on the same side of whatever eye you're doing. Try not to mess up your face if you can. Then we're going to come over this stitch, go under the next stitch, and come up the center. So we're in the next stitch, and then we're going to come up where our center pin is. And then we're going to leave that side for tying. So let's take that pin out. Thread on your other side. Go around the stitch and into the next hole. And we're going to come down on this outside pin. So right in that hole. And then we're going to go over this stitch, in the hole, under this stitch, and then up the center where our other string is. And there, and that will keep your yarn, these two stitches will be holding our face down, and then that will keep your knot from going up into the center of your head. So I just want to make sure I have the right eye. So this is this eye. That's that eye. We'll tie it one time. Now, depending on your thread, you may have to be very careful not to break it because we're going to put a lot of stress on it right now. We're going to bring our eyes together and down and pull together, down and pull until you have the shape that you're hoping to get, kind of poofing out this part and bringing the eyes in. So I think I'm happy with that. Just going to try and tie it without letting it slip here. And then tie it a couple more times to secure it. Set them back on. And then we'll put them back in that same hole. Whoops, I grabbed a bit of my ruffle. And then out the back somewhere. Make sure you pull. If there's a knot there, make sure you pull that so it's not showing. Okay. Yeah, see, I'm always pulling those down. Okay. All right, so it should look like this. All right, we're going to do the ears now, and you can do these any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in round one. Leave yourself a bit of a tail. I'm going to be doing my knot with the loop on the end. And then I'm going to insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain one. And then now we're going to do 6 single crochets into that loop, but we're not going to go over our tail this time. So make sure that's hanging down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're just gonna grab our yarn and tie that off. Leave again yourself a little bit of a tail. So that's gonna be one ear, and then let's just do our second one right now. So leave yourself a bit of a tail. Start however you prefer. I'm gonna be doing the knot with the loop on the end. Try and make it even. Same size as the other one. Insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up, chain 1, and then 6 single crochets into the loop, not going over top of your tail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then tie that off, leaving yourself a bit of a tail. All right, we're going to sew the ears on now too. And I'm just going to pin where we're going to start them. So if you find the top of your eye, and if you're using different eyes, the row that we inserted our eyes in, we're just going 1 row up. And we're going to count over 6 holes from our eye. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just put a pin in there. And then do the same thing on the other side. So the top of your eye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if you want to, if yours is a little different than mine, just in case, because they're not always exactly the same, you can just, we're going to be starting behind our pin. So if you just hold it up behind the pin, just that'll kind of show you where they'll be. And if you're happy with that, we'll sew them on. And if not, maybe you want them a stitch ahead. So let's thread our ear on, and you want to decide what your front is going to be. Now, I always choose the one where you can see the V's on the front side instead of here on the back side where you're seeing the back bars. So thread on the top of whichever side of the ear you're doing. You're going to go 1 stitch behind your pin, around that stitch, and then out. Then you're going to go into the very first stitch or single crochet of your ear. I got to get a good grip on this guy. And I'm not doing mine tight just so you can see, but you'll want to tighten yours up. Then you're going to go 1 row down around that stitch. You're going to go into the hole of your ear. Then you're going to go 1 row down and around that next stitch. I got to tighten mine up here now. And then you're going to go in the bottom stitch of the ear. So it's going to look like this, and then you're just going to tie it in the back. Nice and close to where you attach the ear. Tie your ends back on. Then you're going to go down as close to the ear as you can get, and you're going to come out across from the bottom of your ear and as close to the center as you think you are. Doesn't have to be exact. Bring that through. And give it a pull if you need to hide the knot of this ear. Then grab your second ear. Remember which side is your front. And then grab the top string on that ear. Then you're going to go behind that pin around the stitch. Through the first single crochet at the top of the ear. Down a row around the next stitch. Whoop. Then you're going to go through the middle of the ear where your hole is, where you went in around. Down to the next row and around that stitch. And then through the bottom single crochet of the ear. And then you just tie those. Thread them back on. Go in the hole as close to the ear as you can get, and then come out in the same spot where your other yarn came out for your other side of your ear. All right, now keeping a track of what ear is which side, I'm going to tie that one time. So this is going to be just like when we did the arms. Wrap them around the head, flip him over. And now if you want to give him a bit of a dented in, a longer shape like this, you're going to pull those ends, tighten those ears up. Yeah. I feel like my ears could have maybe been one little bit forward. And then tie those up to secure them. It's all on how you stuff the head, because that's the exact same spot I put my first guy's ears in. And I think his head is going to look a little bigger than this guy's head. Same yarn, same hook, everything, same person. And then we'll just put those out. Also, I guess when you're brushing the hair, you're going to be pulling the head a bit around. So maybe that's why it looks bigger. Now, if you can't find any red pom-poms, I'm going to quickly show you how I made mine. I'm going to do orange because the next guy, I actually need the orange ones. I don't need the red ones. I can use the ones I have. So all I'm going to do is wrap my yarn around 2 fingers about 20 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And we're going to take those ends, try and keep them even. It's really tricky. This tiny little amount. We're going to be tying around the center of them. So I already have a piece cut to tie around there. So put it in the center. And if you have someone to help you, this will be a lot easier because they can put their finger down in the middle, just like when you're tying a bow for a present. So try and make sure it's as close to the center as you can get it. Tight as you can get it, and then tie it a few times just to secure that. Now make sure as we're going along that you keep a good hold on the 2 tying strings, because you don't want to accidentally cut those. So we're going to take our scissors and we're just going to cut all those loops on each side. Don't worry if you miss one, we're probably going to cut it off anyways when we try and make this smaller. Alright, so this is what it's going to start as. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get I put my finger on the knot and I try and feel with my thumb. And this is how I'm trying not to cut that string that I just tied with, because this is going to get really tiny. And I'm just using my thumb curve as a guide. I'm just going to go a little past, turn, try and keep that feel of that knot in the center. Just keep going around. Ooh, that felt like I got a little small there. Once you feel like you kind of got it all the way around, just going to kind of puff it out a bit. And then you're going to do the same thing this way. So my string's down here. Keep a watch on where that is. Whoops, I took a lot there. Turn that around. I feel like I'm getting risky here as to how far I'm gotten. All right, let's have a look. I mean, it's pretty good considering how tiny we're making it. I just might fiddle a bit with the ends. So, oh, sorry, that was so far away. I didn't even look in the camera. And then when you go to tie it on, you're going to put your needle on one side, in a hole on one side of the stitch, a hole on the other side of the stitch, come up in the middle. Oh, I'll just show you, it's easier. So one end, once you've figured out where your center is, will come down and you're going to go over a stitch. This is where you'll tie it. Put your other end on. So you want to make sure you come over at least one stitch from where you went in to begin with. I'm going to go 2 and then out through the center. As long as you don't see this where I'm about to pull it through, it'll be okay. So it's going to look like this. And then when you pull that and tie it on, you won't see that. But you don't go there, so you have to wait your turn. And if you're gluing them on, this is what I use. It's the Aleene's Fabric Fusion. This is just from Walmart. You can use any fabric glue or whatever glue you think might work, hot glue even. Just remember, like if you're using this glue and it's a really liquidy glue, I find that the yarn absorbs a lot of it, so I have to, so say I glue it on here, then I'll find something heavy to lay on top of it, and then it sticks. If I just put a drop on, put my pom-pom on, you're taking your chances whether it stays on or not, because it just soaks up into that yarn. Okay, I'm just going to give you the guideline for how I did my hair. So I'm going to use the backs of the ears and the top of the head as my line for going up. So I've got my pin up in the center here. So I'm just going to move that and put it through my yarn. And then I'm using the back of the ears here. So I'm just going to put a pin at the bottom of the ear because I went all the way to the bottom. Go to the other side. Pin in the bottom of the ear. So all your stitches going up will line up close to this line right here. And then when I did the front of his hair, I did about 3 rows following this. So 1, 2, 3. So that will just be kind of your guide as you're going around. So there-ish and there-ish. So you'll go up, you'll do these ones, fill in the back, and then I'll show you how I add my hair. So I made my hair about 4 of my fingers wide. You make yours however long you want, but if you're not sure, here you can measure and then just kind of hold it up and just see how long it's going to be out. And if you're happy with that length, and it will get a little longer as you brush it. So what you're going to do to make your hair, just kind of like you did for the bow, you're going to go around. I went around more than 100 times, but I went about 30 to 50 at a time. And I probably used about 120 or so strands, maybe more. So I did a little bit like that. Then you're going to cut through the center, cut off your end. There's your strands of hair. Grab your hook. And I'm going to do the front ones first, because I think that'd be easiest to show. So I'm just going to go into my stitch. So I'm going around this 3rd row right here, into my stitch, around the row. I'm going to fold my yarn in half over top of my hook. I'm going to pull that through under the row, up about halfway. Then I'm going to grab these ends. Make sure they're even. Here, and then we're just going to grab those ends and bring them through that loop you made, and then give that a pull. So you'll do that around the front, around the sides and the back, and then if you want to leave them like that, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to make it like I did, first thing you're going to do is you're going to untwist your yarn. Then you're going to separate the strands. So there should be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I did put all my hair on first, then I separated them all first, and then I brushed them all. So this is just showing you your next step after you get all your hair on. So then you'll have it like this. And it does look pretty cool, kinky like that. And then if you want to brush it, you just I use a little pet brush. And I just give it a brush. Or if you can't find one, these little paint scrapers in the paint section at your hardware store, these work pretty good too. Okay, I'm going to leave you now to finish off the hair. And don't forget, if you ever see anything in the background of any of my videos that interests you, you can always go visit my channel, and you should be able to find them there by clicking on the videos tab. And if for some reason you can't, you can always go down into the comments and ask, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you will also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who has been so kind to have hit the thanks button and sent me such generous donations. You will now be listed at the end of all my next videos as my super thanks friends. Take care, be safe, and happy crocheting.